Hey everyone, my name is Andrew Davis, and you're watching Conversation in Pop Culture. And yes, I am hard to kill. And before I introduce my guest, I do want to remind everybody that this episode is brought to you by my friend who has a comic company, Pocketjack Comics. So books like Palace of the Golden Princess and White Lily, and you can find them at pocketjackcomics.com. So go check out what my friend Preston Bolter does. But enough about that, because I have with me model and adult star Stacy Lynn. So welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. I'm excited. Obviously, you're my first interview of 2026. And there's a lot we're going to talk about, some interesting stuff, but I figured I would allow you to introduce who you are because you're interesting, to say the least.
Well, thank you very much. So, like you said, I'm Stacy Lynn, trans male porn star. Been doing industry going on 4 years now. Absolutely love what I'm doing and just living life at the fullest, doing what I can when I can, and making sure that everybody enjoys the path that I follow.
Yeah, so let's talk about a little bit about this because obviously you've been in the industry, I think 4 or 5 years, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
And so like how'd you get into it? Because and I'm going to try to say this the nicest way possible is that you came in a little bit later than a lot of others, for lack of a better word. I'm trying to be as polite as I possibly
Oh,
can.
you're totally fine. Totally true. Yes, I did come into the porn industry later in life than most individuals, but I got my start. Actually, I started doing lingerie photo shoots and just made an Instagram account with it and was working for a couple of photographers that were using me as one of their models and just started posting stuff and had a couple producers reach out to me and I said, you know what, this sounds amazing and fun and let's give it a try, see where it goes, and here I am now.
So yeah, so let's actually talk a little bit about that too, because obviously there's modeling and there's adult modeling. And then there's the complete, position where you go from modeling to then shooting adult content. And what was that like? Because also doing it when you're older, you have a different perspective, I think, than when you're 20. Just because in life, if you're 35, you have more wisdom than a 20-year-old because you've just been around longer. And so what was that like for you? Because I think that you come at it from a very different angle than others for a variety of reasons. And part of also that, and I'm again going to be as polite as I possibly can, is that you're also trans, which also has a different perspective as well.
No, for sure. I mean, definitely had a lot of modeling experience coming into this. Been modeling for, geez, years. Started in high school, actually, prior to transitioning. So definitely had a long history of a wide variety of life experiences coming into this. And yeah, being trans definitely puts you in a particular niche other than, mainstream. But no, I've actually absolutely loved every bit of it. Definitely, a little bit more, I wouldn't say cautious, but definitely have a little bit more experience, can weed out some of the BS moving into things than probably your typical younger individual getting started in this industry. Of course, made mistakes like everybody does. You learn some lessons the hard way, but bounced back, got back into it. I have that won't stop, mentality. I go for what I want, I get what I want, and I just keep pushing towards what I want to achieve. And I do have an expiration date coming. I know that not everybody models into like their 80s, not saying I'm anywhere near that, but just doing what I can while I can, and absolutely and loving it and enjoy what I do. And I'm working on other things in my life and just going along for the ride with this while it's there.
That's so interesting. In which that you acknowledge that you have an expiration date. That's so interesting because I think you're the first person who's publicly said that. I mean, I don't think it's a secret per se, but I find that so interesting, so honest that you realize that there has to be an end point because you can't do this forever, right? So this is I mean, I don't think you can, but not the point. I find it so interesting in which that you realize that there is a point where the prime is over, for lack of a better word.
Oh yeah, definitely. And even being at the, being on the mature side, I don't get a lot of the bookings with a lot of production companies and stuff like that because they're looking for your earlier transitioning women that are in their 20s, early 30s. So a lot of opportunities aren't available for me just because of how old I am. But like I said, I don't let it stop me. I keep working at it. Eventually the production work will come to an end as I get older, but I'll continue doing stuff for my fans as long as I can, as long as I have them, and as long as I look, as good as I do. Knocking on wood. Hopefully, nothing horrible ever happens here. But no, it's just, it is. It's a reality that a lot of people, I don't think, like to discuss because they don't like to, look at it that way. But I mean, it is what it is. It's an industry where, you have particular niches, particular desires in that fans have and everything. And eventually, you'll start losing fans because they like that particular type of model. And when you get outside of that realm, then, that fan's going to go find somebody else that fits his niche. Totally understand that, no hard feelings taken there. I mean, we're all here to enjoy what we like, and eventually I won't be what they like. And I hope that they find another model with, my attitude, my likeness, and my smile.
So I want to table part of that for a little bit in about like 10-15 minutes, because I do want to focus a little bit on what you have done with some production companies. So I think you shot excuse me. I think you've shot for Trans Roommate. I think you've shot for Trans 40. I think you've done, Groovy Girls, which is how I know you from. And then a few other places that you've shot for. And so what is that like? Because you've done, I think, the main, trans production company stuff, and you've shot a lot of scenes with them. And I find that to be interesting because that is a whole different ball game when you shoot for those companies and even the reach they have and how, I guess, so focused they are. Because if you're looking for trans porn, I mean, Groovy Girls, Trans Roommate, Trans 40, I mean, those are kind of the three big ones. There's a few others, but like, what is that like? Because I think that's kind of what put you a little bit on the map.
No, definitely. When getting my start with Groovy, definitely is what launched my career. And I have worked with other productions, like you mentioned, Trans Roommates, Trans Daytime, Trans Midnight, and definitely, great exposure, awesome people to work with. The crew over there with Trans Roommates, absolutely love them. Penny, she does great work, definitely finds my good side for photography and stuff, as well as, the rest of her crew. Beatrix Dahl, they're just absolutely amazing to work with. And, back over to the Groovy side, I've worked with Buddy Wood as well as Radius Dark, and absolutely love them both. Great people to work with. And it's definitely, every production company is different and has their own uniqueness. And I absolutely love it. And I love it when I can go on set and have fun, not just in the sense of having sex and making porn, but I'm able to joke around with the people that I'm working with. People, we're all laughing. We're all having a good time with all these people. And that's just what really makes it just an awesome atmosphere to be working in, and just makes you just want to keep coming back for more and more as long as they have you.
I find it fascinating. And then even to go further into this, because one of the things that I think is fascinating is that, obviously there's a whole independent side, which we're always going to get into, which is the OnlyFans, ManyVids, loyal fans, your own stuff, your own website. But what I find that's fascinating is that if you go and you start in mainstream, there's a concept of building a brand. And we see it with media. I mean, there are people who have been on MSNBC, have been on Fox, have been on CNN, who then leave in basically mainstream media and then launch a major podcast and build their own following. And I find that's what's interesting because, and I'm curious how you feel about that, because if you're with Groovy Girls and Trans Roommate and all those companies, you kind of get your foot in the door and you build a following. so that when you go and do the independent stuff or your own stuff or clips for sale, for instance, you people know who you are. And so I'm curious how you feel about that, because I feel, and maybe it's just my opinion, but I feel like the industry is always tipping back and forth between the mainstream model and the indie model right now.
No, absolutely. It definitely is, and definitely, everybody says this, COVID definitely changed the industry. I came in right after, but, I've known a lot of people within the industry for years, have a lot of friends that have been doing it and saw how things were working with them. And then with, COVID happening, just how everything changed for them as well. So when I came into it, I did. I started right off in production work, when it came to, the porn media. And after that, I started launching my own personal premium sites and everything. You can find me on Loyal Fans, Fansly, ManyVids, OnlyFans. And, but it definitely, I love it because those outlets, definitely doing my own stuff, allows me to be creative and do what I enjoy, bring the scenes that I like, work with my friends, make new friends, and build something that is based around who I am and what I enjoy doing, which is I love putting together, I've definitely fell into the niche of the MILF, mainly because of my age, but just the way a lot of my fans see me. So I get to play off of that. And that's what I really enjoy. But when it comes to production work, some of that gets put into there, but definitely the fact that, I have the ability to read scripts and be able to act and all that definitely builds on that side as well. But with the independent side and having the backing of the production side, it really allows, in your fans out there to find you, being on production sites and everything. And like I said, I meet that niche that they love and it's something that they want more of. And I'm able to provide that with my individual sites and everything. So it definitely
So
works hand in hand.
did you feel that it adds credibility? Because, if you're on the production side, and obviously I think a production, shoot, obviously they're investing money in you and they're paying money. They're paying people to direct. They're paying, a crew to shoot it. Obviously there's other things that go into it, distribution. And do you feel that if a company says we're going to go out and hire Stacy Lynn and you want Stacy Lynn to shoot in this scene, there's an element of credibility, I think, that is being granted so that when you go out and you do your, OnlyFans, that level of credibility, I don't think disappears just because you're not shooting with groovy girls anymore, for instance. And, I feel, I mean, maybe I'm just reading into it a little bit, but it's kind of like, the equivalent with comics, right? If somebody's writing for DC Comics and then they do their own independent comic, they're held in a higher standard because they just wrote 50 issues of Batman. So like that's like how I view it, is that I trust the person who's worked in the field and had some backing and serious money behind them more than somebody who is coming out of the woodworks out of nowhere. If that makes any sense. Again, I don't know how you
No, it
feel.
absolutely does. I mean, the experience and the knowledge that you get from working with production companies has allowed me to step up my game in my individual stuff. So as I continue doing these production work and building off of that, what I've learned, different techniques, and even working with, some of the crews and all that and learning different techniques for shooting and lighting, has definitely allowed me to step up my game. And I completely agree with what you said, referring to the comics and all that. You're working in this industry with these big names and companies, and you should be taking stuff in on that and learning things and building yourself, and definitely doing that there. So when I take it off to my own personal stuff and building my brand and all that, I'm bringing all that with me. And absolutely, people should expect that from my work. And, I always deliver top-notch videos in 4K. I do my own editing, and I take the techniques that I've learned from these individuals and apply it to my work. So the stuff that I'm putting out there individually, I hope is just as good as what these productions are. Granted, your production companies having a crew and out there makes it a whole lot easier. But I do have a camera person that I work with. This is actually my wife, and she's phenomenal with the camera. I mean, if you've seen my personal work, you can definitely tell. But yeah, with these producers and everything that I've worked with, you know, and positioning myself and angles and everything, it definitely, that is what I bring to my fans. So when you go and see one of my videos on Groovy, you're definitely going to see that same image and the same likeness, the same attitude in my individual work. And I don't like putting crap out. You know, I've done many of shoots where I go back and I go to look at and edit, and I'm just like, no, I don't like the way this looks. I don't want to put my name on it, and I won't put it out there.
So that's interesting. I opened up baseball cards and I did a card opening and I hated the shoot. I wasn't feeling it, and I'm just like, I'm not putting this out, and I didn't publish it, and I just tabled it. I said, this is not great. It wasn't feeling it, and then sometimes, you know, even if something is bad, you got to put it out regardless, and you got to hope for the best that it's not as bad as you think. But for the most part, I shot something like 3 days ago, and I'm just like, yeah, this was a bad video, so I just deleted it and I didn't publish it because I'm like, yeah, there was just nothing there. It was just an off position. But I do want to talk about the stuff you do on the OnlyFans, the Loyal Fans, the many vids, because I find that side of the business to be fascinating, where I find it to be complete control. You know, models own their own work. And I think, you know, because when you're doing it for a production company, you don't get a royalty, you get paid, and you don't own your work. And I'm a big proponent of owning your work in a lot of ways and owning what you produce. And so I'm curious in which that, like, what is it like to be on OnlyFans, Loyal Fans, many vids, because you own that content. You own, in essence, your subscribers to a degree, and you own all the money you bring in minus the fees they take as a platform.
No, I mean, definitely, it's nice putting out your own work and owning that and being able to put it where you want it, when you want it. Absolutely. You know, definitely when it comes to the different platforms and all that, I mean, there are a lot of guidelines and everything that you have to follow. And especially with working with co-stars and everything, you know, all the consent forms and everything that are required, you know, and submitting all that stuff is a pain in the butt. But you know, at the same time, you know, it is for legal purposes and protecting individuals. I would hate someone to put something out there that I didn't consent to. So I totally agree with it, although gets taxing at times. But no, being able to put your name on something and own it and control it the way you want to is absolutely, I mean, that's the way I love to do things. You know, when I do my own shoots, working with individual and everything, you know, that is something that's nice. And yeah, you know, I did that shoot with someone, and they also, you know, that content's theirs as well. But, you know, they also have the opportunity to edit in the way that they would like it as well, you know, for themselves, which is really nice too, because, you know, for me, you know, I can definitely, you know, if there's a part of the video where I'm not looking so good and all that, you know, I can take that out, splice in something else, you know, that way I can keep myself the way I want to represent myself. And it allows my co-star to do the same thing for them. And so, you know, being able to do that and everything, it definitely is a lot. Definitely boosts also your, I don't want to say ego, but just your whole attitude and everything going forward. You know, there's been some companies that I've worked with that have taken some still photos and used that as my model profile. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, seriously, out of all the pictures, you picked that one? But, you know, at least with my stuff, like I can keep my photos updated and everything. And I can put that image out there that definitely people are going to know me as, and something that I want people to see me. You know, not something else that someone else looks at and be like, oh, I think this is what fans want to see. Be like, no, I know what my fans like. I know what they want to see. And I'm able to give that to them. Where, yeah, with a production company, you know, they're bringing you on and paying you for that shoot to play a particular role. And they, you know, you're playing that role to their standards and what they want. Whereas here, you know, it's everything is my standards and the way I want to do it. And, you know, I definitely put a lot of hard work into all my shoots. As you can see, like I have this studio here that I do a lot of camming on and done shoots in here too. But, you know, I've invested a lot into my own personal studios, and, you know, I can have them the way I want, and I can build my scenes around what I have available, you know, so it definitely gives me time, and I can put more time into it too. You know, when it comes to a production company, you get noticed, sometimes it'll be a month, sometimes it's even been a couple of days. And, you come in there, and most of the time, as soon as I walk in, I'm handed my script and I got to learn it right then and there. Whereas, doing my own personal stuff, I can work on it. I've got, all the time in the world to put my script together, pick my co-star, someone who I think would be really good for that role that I'm going to be working with, and allow them to see the script and allow both of us to kind of have a dialogue going back and forth to be, working. The script is always fluid and going. And sometimes there is some ad libbing because, it is porn. Things happen, if, we try not to have bloopers, but they do happen. But, sometimes things change a little bit, and it's nice to be able to work with individuals who understand the entirety of the script and can ad lib a couple of different things in there to just keep a good flow going. And definitely love that.
So there's a lot to break down here. So obviously, I have a lot of questions. So one of the things, especially because the when you have full control, I mean, obviously, I don't know if you do customs, but I know a lot of people do, and having conversations with people, sometimes, there's been plenty of people who said somebody came to me with a custom, and I never thought of the idea to do it that way. I never thought of this idea of doing it with this and having this type of shoot and all that stuff. And then they also, it opens up the door because somebody might have an idea and you're like, oh my God, that's brilliant on a custom. And then the other thing too is that you can then, because I was speaking to somebody, I'm not going to say who it is, but she said a lot of my stuff on ManyVids is all custom work. So all of it gets published to the mainstream. But like half of her videos that are up on ManyVids are all customs done by people because they have all these ideas, and it allows a client to be a director, but it also allows a interesting perspective. And I don't know if you do customs, but like that's another thing too, is that's also fascinating when you get into that stuff because it gives a lot of creativity, for lack of a better word here.
No, I love doing customs, honestly. I've had some really great ones. Yeah, and I agree with you. I mean, some of these fans out there have amazing ideas where it's just like, oh my gosh, I can see this as a production. And then you also have your ones that are really off the wall and out there. When it comes to the customs and stuff. But no, I absolutely like it. I'm a pleaser, and I love giving people what they want. So when it comes to the custom videos, I absolutely enjoy. I want to get my fans excited. I want them to enjoy what they're looking at. And I definitely want them to be able to have the experiences that they want to see unfold on camera that they want to watch. And I do a lot of customs. I don't do so much through ManyVids, but definitely through my premium sites, OnlyFans, Loyal Fans, and Fansly. A lot of I interact with everybody on those platforms. So you can, if you're one of my subscribers, message me and I get back to you. And I get a lot that way. A lot of them, start making the connection, everything, communicating and all that. And they start telling me different things. I'm like, yeah, definitely. If this is something that you want as a custom video, I'll be more than happy to do. And like I said, you also get those weird ones out there, these weird requests that people have. And, there's some things that I won't do, but others, it's, to me, it's a silly idea. But at the same time, I find it fun. I had one individual who wanted me to wear scuba gear, parts of scuba gear to do that, which is actually pretty funny. I'm a huge diver. So I was just like, heck, why not? I've always wanted to go diving naked and film it and all that. Well, I won't be in the water, but it's a start.
So, and to go even further, obviously when you produce your own content, whether that's for OnlyFans or ManyVids, I mean, you own that content. So obviously if it's a custom, somebody paid for the custom, and then you can republish it if they don't make it exclusive for the most part. And everybody has different rules, but a lot of models that I know, they release the content out, and it's almost like they get a royalty on the content. And that's what makes it so interesting, is that the content in and of itself, it might be that you're selling it as a $10 clip, but if 40 people want it, it's like $400 just there, and it can keep on giving and almost acting like a royalty. So I don't know how you Like, because that's why this is so different than a production company, is that it could very well be that depending on what custom it is and how many people buy it, download it, purchase it, view it appropriately. I use that word, which we're going to get into um, at some point. But like, what is that like for you? Because it could be that you have a clip from 5 years ago that's still generating you money.
No, absolutely. I have even some of my beginning clips, which aren't nearly the quality of what I put out now. They're still selling. But when it comes to the customs, yeah, absolutely. Somebody's like, "Hey, I got this idea. I'd really like to see this and that." And we do charge for customs depending on what's all involved. And of course the price. We add different charges for different things and all that. And, when somebody does want something that is completely exclusive to them, there is a little bit more of a charge, especially like when you're, they want you to say their name and stuff like that. Like, I'm not going to go out and, release something where I'm sitting here, telling Paul and Peter how hot and sexy and how much I want to be with them, to the masses out there. But a lot of the times, yeah, you get that opportunity where they're like, I want to see this theme, I'll pay your rate for, your minute rate that you have, your minimal stuff. And I just want to see this, definitely it's something that I'm able to do and put together. And then, yeah, that's something that I can continue to make revenue off of by having it out there, being able to release it, because it just wasn't so completely either to a particular niche or, addressing an individual within the video. So that allows you, to definitely do that. And like I said, some of the ideas, I've actually have a couple of videos out there that, fans approached me and asked me to make a custom video. And a couple of them are, big sellers as well. So I am making off of that. So it definitely allows, you to broaden your market by making custom videos. And I really enjoy it.
No, I find it fascinating. Which, like, as an interviewer, I have interviews that initially did not do well, and they have slowly gained traction over 5-6 years. And I have like interviews. I had an interview that was published. It like did like 4 views, and now it's done almost 7,000 views. And like it did it like as like a sleeper, and it was great because it just slowly chipped away like every day. And then you look at it like 2 years later, like, how the fuck did this thing get 7,000 views? Like, and I would imagine that you probably have videos either on OnlyFans or ManyVids or Clips for Sale. You're like, how the fuck did this thing generate me $10,000? Like, how the fuck did this happen? Like, so like, because I think it's people do not understand that if you have a lot of content in play, it doesn't take a lot. It takes a small amount of money spread across 10,000 videos to generate $20,000 a month. It doesn't take a lot of money per video to do that. And I think that that's what's so interesting, is that I love the economics of everything and how it all works. It's just how I'm wired. But I find it fascinating. But I do want to go into the OnlyFans stuff, because that's also interesting, because that's a different ball game than a Clips for Sale or a ManyVids, because that's also fan interaction. And I think that we are more sociable than we've ever been before as a species, in which, because you can communicate with a model. And I think people want to communicate with celebrities. I think they want to communicate with models. I think they want to communicate with people that they enjoy, like. And so what is that like for you? Because somebody could shoot you a message if they subscribe to you, and it's like, hey, I just loved you in this scene. And it might not seem like a big deal, but it's kind of a cool thing.
No, absolutely. I mean, engaging with the fans on these platforms definitely adds a whole different level to it. Because, yeah, I'm here to talk to individuals who've seen, videos that I've put out there with production companies. They get released to the masses. I have no idea who's watching them. But yeah, you get those fans. They find you on your premium sites, and they interact with you, and you get to hear feedback that you don't get to see anywhere else. I mean, I can, on some of the production companies that I've worked with, I can go in and I can check how many people have downloaded it and the comments that they leave. Which you get bits and pieces there. You may get 4,000 people who download that video. You may get 4 or 5 comments. But when you get that interaction with the fan and tell you, you get to ask them too, like what particular was it that you liked? What was it that turned you on? What part of the scene, did you want to see something different? And that's that feedback that I get that allows me to put that going forward into my individual scenes that I do. So having that interaction is absolutely amazing. You do get some people on there that are, the interaction isn't as great, but for the most part, most of the interaction that I get is absolutely amazing. I mean, who doesn't like being told how hot and sexy they are? But at the same time, seeing what makes me hot and sexy in their image and being able to build off of that and, provide, more media for me to put out there, be like, hey, I got a lot of fans that really like this. I've had that interaction. And so this next photo shoot, I really want to make sure that I build photos and build a scene, presenting what it is that they really love about me. So that interaction is absolutely amazing. And, interacting with fans, like I've ran into fans in public, at different events that I go to as well, and having that interaction, I absolutely love it, and it's been funny. I've had a couple of people come up to me even in public and be like, hey, I'm a fan of yours. I've seen you here, seen you there, and can I take a selfie with you? It's like, absolutely. And it's like, hey, make sure you tag me. And like, well, and I always ask, like, how, where do you see me at? Where do you follow me at? And when they tell me that, they follow me on OnlyFans, I was like, how come I've never, talked to you before, anything like that? There also is that other thing too. People are afraid to reach out and say different things. You run into these people because like, just message me, we'll chat, share the picture, there, and I'll throw it up on my Twitter, if you want me to, or if not, feel free to throw me on there and tag it. But it definitely allows a whole different connection level, which is absolutely amazing because, these fans are what keep you in business. And I love being able to interact with them and seeing what they enjoy and being able to provide that and continue producing content that they find enjoyable rather than, it was a shotgun blast trying to figure out what niche I fall into, because I definitely don't pick it. I can aim for something, but your fans kind of see you in a different light, and that's what they like more than other roles that you've played. And that's the biggest thing is settling into these niches, because that's where you start building your fan base at. So definitely that interaction makes it so good, so you can get that figured out and produce that content that they love.
See, this is interesting, right? Because I think if you can interact with your fans, you can figure out, what they want. And then also there's an element of staying relevant, right? So I have an idea what certain people want on my YouTube channel. I have an idea of what people are into. And I try to interact in the comments section, especially on YouTube, more so than on Facebook, because Facebook is, in my opinion, it's much more complicated because you're already curated and you put it into groups, and then there's all this politicking going on podcasts on Facebook that I find. But I find on YouTube, I interact with my viewership, in the comment section. And, what is that like? Because if you can interact and somebody is paid and you're answering their messages and now you have a human connection, I mean, it keeps you relevant. It keeps you active to a degree. And I mean, I hate to say that they're like a cash cow, but it keeps them in your business, for lack of a better word. And it's a hot link. It's a hot lead, for lack of a better word. And I think that's what's so interesting about OnlyFans in general, and Loyal Fans and a few other places that are similar, is that there's definitely a position when I could speak to you and I'm speaking to you and sending you a message, you get back to me, I'm more likely to watch your content. Versus if you brushed me off and told me to go fuck myself, not so much.
No, definitely. I mean, that is one important thing. And like you said, it's like, it's your viewers, it's your fans that keep you relevant in this industry and pay your bills. So it's definitely something that you want to be able to do, is interact with them. And like I said, staying relevant is definitely, it's important in any media outlet, whether it be porn, podcasts, photography, anything like that. When you're putting out media for that, for people's enjoyment, you need to be relevant into what they like and what's common and what's going on out there. I'm going to build something, still within my image and all that, but because there's certain ways that I want myself to be seen, but at the same time, I want to do what they want in my style, if that makes sense. So definitely, you got to see what the individuals want, what your fans want, so you can provide that for them, so they do keep coming back and keep, subscribing to your content, and you know and for you to be relevant in this industry is super important as well. But I think most importantly, when it comes to the porn industry, is with that interaction, is that people know that you're just not a robot out there. You're not some AI image, where somebody just found somebody online and be like, hey, AI, remove her clothes. People want to know that you're real. And
Let me ask you this, because I don't know, and feel free, and I'll just state it because I have no problem stating it. I look at certain porn stars and I'm like, oh man, that girl's a bitch. And like I've heard horror stories, and if I'm spending money, right? I'm not saying you have to treat me like a god, right? But I do expect that if I'm spending money on anything, by the way, whether it's a celebrity signing, a comic signing, there should be some level of appreciation, some level of respect, some level of courtesy if I'm not being disrespectful to you. But like, because I think there's also that has occurred where I think people don't want to be treated like shit when they're spending money. And I think for a while, and maybe it's because I come from the anime world, Comic Con world, and not so much from the porn world, but there's been plenty of people who have treated, plenty of celebrities who have treated their fans like shit. And I think people have gotten sick of it. And so, you know what is? I think that's a big thing also that has shifted. And maybe COVID helped with it a little bit, but it's also like, and that's just what I'm seeing and what I'm feeling and how I want to be treated. So I think when I'm interacting with somebody and a celebrity on OnlyFans, or even I was at Exotica Con last year in Jersey, and I was speaking to a few of the models that I enjoyed. Like, I don't want to be treated like shit. If I'm spending like $50 for a photo, I want to be treated with a little decorum, a little bit of appreciation. And I don't know, like, and I think that's the thing that's going on, that's shifting right now in a lot of industries. And I think OnlyFans and how you interact with your fans is a big thing.
no, absolutely. It's absolutely important to be respectful to your fans, as long as they are being respectful to you. I do get a lot of individuals who, say very rude things and stuff to me like that. And I let them know, it's like, hey, that's not called for. That's not something that I appreciate. But for the most part, my fans do. Like, they come to me with big smiles. I want to give them that big smile right back. They're happy to see me and I'm happy to see them. They are extremely important to me. And, like I said, my fans is what pays my bills. So, yeah, I'm very appreciative that I have them, and I want to show them that appreciation. And it's extremely important, because if you start being rude and disrespectful to your fans, absolutely, they're going to go find somebody else. And they're going to, even if you don't interact with them, they're going to go find another model that they can interact with. And that's what's really important. Like you said, we are more social beasts, especially when it comes to the anonymity that we have, online and on these different social media platforms and stuff like that. But people want to feel relevant. They want to feel like, hey, I'm paying for this service. I want that personal touch with that service, and that's what I'm here to provide, because that is super important. Wouldn't be here without having fans, and I'm very grateful that I do. And I understand that without these fans, I wouldn't be relevant. I wouldn't have this job. I wouldn't be doing production work. I wouldn't have followers, and I wouldn't be here anymore. So I definitely love being able to interact with my fans.
The great philosopher John Cena said that without WWE, he would not be where he's at with the hundreds of millions of dollars he's worth. And they get a piece of all of his projects, all of his money. And he said he's very happy with the arrangement that WWE gets a piece of when he was in the Barbie movie. He's very happy with that arrangement. And he has to kick a little bit back because they legally own his name. But he said, I would not be here and I would not be wealthy. And I would not have had the amazing run that I've had. And I'd be mowing lawns in Massachusetts. Like, versus being worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And so I think people forget that, without your fans, without a lot of things, you can be mowing lawns in Massachusetts, everybody. So just keep that in everybody's head. If you treat your fans like shit, maybe it's time you buy a lawnmower.
Yeah.
So I call it like I see it, right? So I'm well aware that there are people that without them, I would not be anything. Certain people. But I digress right there. That's a whole philosophy discussion on so many levels, but it's still true. But again, I find this fascinating. I don't have an OnlyFans. I am not OnlyFans built, and I am perfectly fine and comfortable with myself.
Hey, you know what? You'd be surprised. There's a lot of different niches out there. You can find yourself in one, and you make a couple extra bucks on the side of your podcasts.
I am perfectly fine running my eBay business, running my podcast, and investing my money and working my day job. I am perfectly fine. And the extra 10 hours I have, I would much rather watch wrestling or football, because the only day that I get out of relaxation is Sundays now. And it's all day football. You crack open a beer, and it's absolutely wonderful because nobody bothers me for like 12 hours straight. It's beautiful. And I love those 12 hours. And if somebody does bother me on my Sunday, God help them. God help them. So God help them, because you might need God, and then you might need another God to help you figure out how to get out of this situation with me. But anyway, it's not about me. It's about you, because I do want to talk about the other side, and that is protecting your content, because I find that to be absolutely a nightmare with any IP right now, and the internet is full of stealing.
No, it absolutely is. And I constantly find my content on pirated sites. It also costs a lot of money to continue to protect it, and to have these companies protect your rights to your content and go after all these pirate, sites that are out there. But, a lot of them aren't even in the US, and it makes it really difficult. A lot of the platforms have started, helping us with the piracy and stuff like that. But still, there's always ways around it, and it's frustrating. Very frustrating. But at the same time, it's just, unfortunately, it's a business loss, just like anything else in this industry when you do something that's mainly put out online. And unfortunately, you just got to keep working at it, chopping at it, and, finding different ways to protect your content. I've tried a lot of different companies, a lot of different apps. I really started, heavily watermarking my stuff that I put out there, especially on the social sites. So people just don't screenshot it and start adding it to the other stuff. At least with my watermark, I know that they definitely stole it from me, which helps me, with these different companies and everything, and trying to, get those images taken off of those sites. But unfortunately, it's just something that we deal with. I mean, online piracy is massive. And I've even had, I was at the T Awards, what was it, 2 years ago, come out after the awards and all that. And here I got these people trying to get me to sign all these photographs of myself. And I asked them, I was like, well, what happens with this stuff? Definitely images that were taken off of my, my ex profile, and even some of the stuff that is only on my OnlyFans, seeing it there. And they're like, oh, it's just for us. But yet they have files of all of us different actresses with probably 5 to 20 different photographs, and be like, there's like 4 or 5 people trying to run up to us models with a Sharpie and all these pictures for us to sign. It's like, no, you're pirating my images, you're trying to get me to sign it so you can make revenue off of it. It's like, no, I absolutely won't sign it.
I mean, in my defense, right, and I'm going to throw a slight challenge flag on it. So I am a flipper, right? I buy and sell, and I get stuff signed. But the stuff that I get signed is that I'll go buy a card from Top. So I'm not pirating the image. But, everybody is fine with it, because the person who's signing is getting paid an autograph. And then they know it's going to get flipped. but it's a legitimate product. So if you were on a DVD, and I don't think you have a problem, and feel free to tell me if you do, is that if somebody brought you a Blu-ray or a DVD and you signed it and then they were flipping it and selling it on eBay, you might not be thrilled that they're selling it on eBay, but they didn't violate the piracy component of it, right? So
No, absolutely. And I don't mind that too, especially when fans come and purchase one of my headshots for me to sign. I have, that happens everywhere. And selling that stuff off, that's perfectly fine. But it's completely different when you're downloading and having an image of me that you didn't pay for, didn't get, that you took from one of my sites, and then you're trying to get me to sign it. And I can understand, like, you get that one fan that comes up, be like, oh, I love this picture of you. Can you sign it? And it's just that one fan with like, maybe has like 2-3 other pictures of models, but you can tell he only has like 4 photos on him, of the 4 top models that he absolutely loves. That's something completely different. And yeah, he's tipping me for my autograph. That's something completely different. If he decides to go and flip that later on, I got that interaction with him. He tipped me for my autograph,
the reason why I bring this up is that there are people who will not sign things, even if they're legit, because they don't want to deal with flippers, right? So, there are people who do that. There are people who also will sign everything and anything as long as they're being paid. And then there's people who say, look, I signed for free, right? I don't give a shit what you sell me because I don't make my money from this. And so like I find it fascinating, right? So like, I mean, 2 of my favorite people are Serena Havoc and Robin Coffins. And so, I mean, I got to get my hands on Neon Vampires, that whole Blu-ray, and I have to get myself an autographed copy of that because that thing is just majestic. You take out the porn on that shoot, it's a great movie without the porn, and then you add the porn stuff in there, and it's just something else. That's how you know that's a good porn shoot, is if you can take out the porn and it still stands solid. It's really good. But the reason why I bring this up is that I find it such an interesting position how people's rules are on this, because it is tricky, right? To protect your revenue. It's tricky to protect your property, and it's tricky to protect all of this. And then it's also the balancing side of it too, is that you still want maybe a 30, maybe a minute clip to leak out so that people get a flavor of who you are. Because if a million people see a 5-minute clip of a 45-minute scene of yours, they might want to say, what's the other 40 minutes?
No, absolutely. And, I always build teasers for all my content. And even with different things, one thing that I really love to do when I do sign autographs is I like to personalize, my message to my fan, who they are. If Peter wants to come over here and ask him for an autograph, ask them for their name. I'll be like, hey, Peter, it was, absolutely invigorating being able to be in your presence, Stacy Lynn, stuff like that. Makes it, one, is more fun for me, and 2, yeah, it kind of personalizes it to them so they can't just run off and do that. But no, I mean, you're still going to put trailers out there, and especially on the social media sites, when you release a trailer and you see it reposted all over, that actually makes me feel great. Because not only do people love what I put out there, but they're also giving me all that free advertisement and, spreading my trailer out for even more people to see. So exactly, they'd be like, oh my gosh, look at this girl. She's fucking hot. I love what she's doing. I was just like, I got to see what this looks, the whole entire scene looks like. Like, how do I just get these little clips here? I want to see it all. So it definitely helps. And I'm all for that, and putting out those teasers and having those teasers shared and everything. But yeah, it does get frustrating when all of a sudden you're out there and you're like, oh my gosh, there's my entire 45-minute video for anyone and everyone to see for free. That takes away from me and everything that I invested to do that. Because even when I do, go ahead.
No. I mean, I'll take it even a step further, right? Do you also feel that, let's say it was 45 minutes on OnlyFans, right? I don't know how much is your OnlyFans a month?
My OnlyFans is about $20. About $18 a month.
So if I bought your OnlyFans for $18 a month, right? And then all of a sudden half of your OnlyFans is free on the internet. I'm gonna say, what the fuck? I just spent $18 and I'm spending $18 supporting you. And as a fan, I'm not gonna necessarily leave, but I say, what the fuck? How did this thing get leaked? And why is it all free? And why is a bunch of people now getting to see this free? Right. So on a fan level, as a consumer, say, what the hell? Like, I don't want, somebody who's not paying to see this. I'm paying for it, right? And it creates a very interesting dichotomy, right? It's the same thing. Like if all of a sudden you have a back entrance into Netflix, right? And I'm spending $23 a month on Netflix to watch Stranger Things 5. And then my friend doesn't pay for Netflix. Like, oh yeah, I saw that episode 2 for free. I'd be like, what the fuck?
No,
Like,
absolutely. Like it is frustrating, even for the fans and all that. You sit there and they're paying to see your content. They're paying your prices and everything. And yeah, I'm pretty sure it's very upsetting for them to go out there and Google my name and see, hey, I just spent $20 on ManyVids to buy this video, and here it is leaked for free. So it definitely, that piracy adds, frustration and upsetment to your fans. But not only that, but I mean, it's like I put together, one of my own personal productions and all that. I've invested in my lighting, my cameras, my editing software, the props that I have in my studio and everything, that's all money and all that I'm hoping, to earn back, by spending all that and putting it out there and having that stuff to do these great productions. And then you see that stuff out there for free. It's like, wait a minute, like I invested a lot into that, a lot of time, a lot of money. And here it is just getting ripped off, and that's coming, that's money not going into my pocket. That's definitely hurting me, because then, that's not revenue I'm getting to put into my next production and to upgrade my camera equipment and upgrade my lights and change the props in my studio.
No, I had somebody take something of mine once that was blatant, and they tagged me in it. It's happened 3 times, but the other 2 was not as bad. The other 2 was really good media for me. And the person was really apologetic, and the person's like, "Oh my god, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to tell you." I'm like, "Relax, man. I wasn't worried about it." You know? But the other time is the guy cut up a clip and he didn't tell me until I saw it, and I was pissed the fuck off because I don't have a problem sharing clips with people if I cut them up or sharing pieces of clips, but I'm going to give you clips to use for your own stuff, and I'm going to keep clips for myself exclusively. You don't get, if I publish a clip out of an interview on my YouTube, you don't get, there are clips that are exclusive, and I will give you 2 or 3 clips that you could use exclusively, for lack of a better word here, but don't take something without telling me you're going to do it. Even if you're the guest, you got to let me know what you're going to do. And there might be a good reason why I'm asking you, because I might want to use the exact clip and we're going to have to figure out who gets what. Because I don't want to share certain content, or I want certain content that's exclusive for me. I was pissed because it wasn't the issue of it being stolen. It was the issue of it being stolen without my permission or used without my permission. The other 2 times, it was a 5-second clip, and I was wearing a shirt done by an artist, and somebody cut it up, and it wound up happening that the Instagram reel got 50,000 views, and I'm like, I don't care that I got no credit for that. You give me 50,000 views, you could keep it, because it was good for me, and it got me a lot of viewership, but it was 5 seconds, and it didn't hurt me at all. And then they cut up the clip again 6 months later, a different one, and they included me. I'm like, great. But like the guy, Tommy Bill, was like, oh, dude, I'm so sorry that I don't want to, I didn't mean to offend you. I'm like, dude, relax. Like, this isn't the problem if it's 5 seconds. But I would imagine that if it's every single shoot you do, you're like, fucking A, right?
No, absolutely. It is. It's very frustrating. And luckily I haven't seen every, movie that I've made, pirated out there for free. But at the same time, it's like, what really makes me upset is like when there's a platform that somebody has to pay for to watch my video. I'm like, what the heck? It's like, now you're making money off of me. But that's the other thing too, is like, yeah, people will take your stuff. Like I've got a lot of, fans out there that have these, fan sites that do promotion work. And I love it that they come to me and they're like, hey, we would like to, post some more photos of you on our profile. Can you please provide us some? And some of them just take it off of the ones that, I put on that platform, which I completely enjoy and find very respectful that they do that. They're not going to my OnlyFans and grabbing a picture and, throwing me on their, profile and stuff like that. They literally will take the photos that I put on my social media and repost them, or they come to me and they ask for them. And I'm more than happy to provide photos to them for that, because it's free promotion for me. And at the same time, it's something that I want people to see that people aren't paying for. Because for the individuals who are paying for stuff, I don't want, the images that they're paying to see of me, available out there for free.
No, I get it. In which that I don't know what it feels like. In which that, if somebody wants to steal my fucking interview, I'm not gonna fucking fight you tooth and nail unless it's blatantly obvious. But if somebody did publish my interview on their YouTube channel and it wasn't there, I go ape shit. And I'm a litigious person, not for money, but based on the principle. I will. I mean, I'm not gonna get into what I did earlier, but I didn't like the way a company was treating me, and I moved a lot of money away from them, over $25. And all they had to do was legitimately just waive a $25 fee, and it was hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I'm a very principled person. If I don't like the way I'm getting treated, I will move hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I will move millions of dollars over $25. That based on the principle, it was a headache to do it, and it was worth. If I left it alone, I would have saved more than $25, but I didn't like the way I was being treated. And I was proud to do it. But the reason why I bring this up is that sometimes it's the principle, right?
No, absolutely. It's some of the stuff that people do out there. It's just like, what the heck? Like, why? And yeah, if there's stuff that you can fight, absolutely. I will fight for my own content. I will fight for my brand when it's feasible and all that. But, sometimes, you're limited to your resources. But when I'm not, oh yeah, I'm just like you. I will let somebody know that they pissed me off, that they're definitely, doing me wrong, and try to put a stop to that.
I am creative at this. I enjoy it. I enjoy trolling. I enjoy a lot of stuff, and I have a good time dealing with this stuff. So I really, really enjoy, the principal fights are the best. But I digress there. Obviously, I do have 3 more questions. And I do want to talk about a particular scene because I enjoyed the scene. And I am going to plead the fifth how I saw the scene. But I must say that you shooting with your wife was absolutely smoking hot. And so, what was that? Because that was a good scene. I enjoyed that scene. There were many things in that scene, and I feel weird, like saying it in front of you, because it's a little like weird to say it, but it was there are many things in that scene that are very, very, very hot.
No, I actually absolutely love that scene. I mean, yeah, that's my wife. That's someone that, I'm on an intimate level more than anybody will ever see. And no, when you have that chemistry and you're able to put that on camera, it was absolutely amazing, and it produced amazing work. Everybody always comments on that scene. There are, 2 scenes that we have done. One, earlier in my career that we did, in our kitchen, we just shot, but then that queer crush scene that we did together, that was absolutely incredible. And I always have fans tell me, like, make more with your wife, and I absolutely would love to, but unfortunately with her career, porn's not a route for her. But I did luck out and get 2 scenes with her. Probably the only 2 I'll ever get. But no, it absolutely was amazing. And when you're able to, have that intimate level with somebody that you're just, I married her for a reason. And to be able to share that was absolutely amazing. And just even the people who were, shooting that scene for us, they're at Queer Crush, Dahlia and Nikki Z, like they absolutely told us the same thing. They're just like, wow, that was absolutely amazing. And they do this all the time. They shoot people, but when you have that connection with someone and just what that will produce is absolutely amazing. And I was very fortunate to be able to do that scene with her. And trust me, I wish I could do more with her, but I respect her decision and not, staying, doing stuff in the industry and everything. But no, that was so much fun. And yeah, just the different things that we got to do with each other. I mean, we knew everything about each other, and she knows exactly how to get me going, how to get me screaming, and I know how to make her start screaming, so we were able to do that. And that was probably one of the best videos that I have put out there, because of that, because I knew everything about her. I knew how to make it great. But that was just it too. It's also in that scene, it was literally us just doing what we enjoy doing with each other. There was no role playing. I mean, that was all pure and raw, and that's something that you don't get in every scene. So it was amazing to do, and I'm glad that you as well as so many other people love that.
It's such a weird question to ask, right? Because I'll give it from my perspective as somebody who's not in the industry and not in the porn industry. Somebody said, I really enjoy the way you fucked your wife. Like, I probably like, what the fuck? Like, you gotta understand how the thought process is coming from my angle on this. It's such a weird question to ask. And I'm like, I'm really turned on watching this, and I'm like, I'm not too sure this is a good question to ask. Like, but the scene is great. Like, there's stuff in that scene where, like I could break down that scene for the next hour and like explain like exactly where it turned me on. I'm like, fuck, like it's it's such a terrible question to ask. There's people gonna watch this and be like, fuck, we're learning a lot about Andrew today. But clearly, great scene, great scene.
Thank you.
So yes, so I had to ask because it's such like I can't explain it why it was hot. Like, and maybe it's because it's your wife too that adds to it. Once you know some context to it, if it was just two strangers or like two girls hanging out, like, but the fact that it's your wife adds just to the hotness.
No, it definitely does. I mean, when you're like, I just like that scene to me, like I said, it was really one of the best ones that I've done out there. And it was so exciting to be able, one, to just, be able to have her on camera in a production setting. Like that was absolutely awesome. I was so excited. I was like that little kid in a candy store, just like, yes, I get to do the job that I absolutely love with the person that I absolutely love, and so it was awesome. But it is funny, people have asked me about that scene before, and they said, is it weird that I ask you, but no, with the work that I do, yeah, having people tell me, I love the way you fuck your wife, be like, thank you. And I hope she does too. But yeah, that's not something that you just randomly walk up to someone and say. But, hey, when you do what I do, I love hearing it. I love people saying that they love the way I fuck my wife. I'd be like, awesome, that's great. Because I was able to share that with everybody. And that's something different too about me. It's like I want people to see, me in that raw setting. I mean, that was like literally the rawest scene you'll ever see me in. And I love that. I love that people can see that, I am a real person. I'm not a robot when I get on scene. I do enjoy having sex, even if, there are a lot of scenes that I enjoy doing. I've got great chemistry with a lot of my co-stars, but that right there, can't beat that chemistry. There's a reason why I married that girl out of everybody else that I had the opportunity to. So,
well, I would ask who proposed to who, but you don't have to answer that question.
I can definitely tell you that I was proposed to. She proposed to me, and I was like, it was a no-brainer. Definitely yes.
So you didn't pull a Leonard to Penny?
No.
That's a funny episode of Big Bang when Leonard is explaining how he rejected Penny proposing to him. Oh, I'm a Big Bang fan. If anybody didn't know that, um, but yes, that's great. That's great. But I'm not gonna press any further on that issue. For you. Obviously, you know what I'm gonna be doing in 20 minutes from now. But anyway, eating ice cream. I want to make that crystal clear. Eating ice cream, um, or a Rice Krispie treat. I haven't decided yet. But I got Chunky Monkey, Ben and Jerry's Chunky Monkey upstairs, guys. So definitely Chunky Monkey. It's Ben and Jerry's. It's great. There's always two things that belong in ice cream and one thing that doesn't in it. But I digress. But I do want to go further and I'm curious where you think the industry is going because you're obviously on the older side. You're in a little bit of everything with the industry. You've been around for 5, 6 years now. You're trans and you're milfy, so you got all the boxes checked. For lack of a better word here, and so your perspective is all encompassing.
No, I mean, it's hard to say where the industry as a whole is going to go. Especially right now, there is, a lot of laws being drafted. There's two states out there that have completely banned porn in the states. There's a lot of legislation in further restricting and what we are able to do. And, to see where all that goes is definitely interesting. So a lot of what can happen is up in the air right now, depending on what, these legislative efforts are going to do to us. But as for me, I know exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to keep doing exactly what I love doing. And like I said, I know I got that expiration date and I'm going to do the best that I can until that time comes. And when that is, I have no clue. I mean, this could be my last year for all I know, or I may have 4 or 5, more years or even more, after that. Like, I don't know, but I'm definitely going to enjoy what I can. But we're very resilient as a whole when it comes to the industry. Things are going to keep getting pushed on us and we're just going to keep working with it. And we're just going to keep going. You're not going to see us quit. You're not going to see us stop. If all of us have to go, move to some remote island to continue doing what we love, you'll see us do that. I have a lot of friends that have left the US because of different things that are going on and continue to making their content, in other countries. And I definitely see myself, if it came to that, I would do the same as well. I'm not saying that, the US is so horrible that I don't want to live here, but I do want to continue with the lifestyle that I enjoy. I want to continue doing what I love doing. And if that means I got to go somewhere else to do it, then so be it. I'll go travel over there, spend 6 months in a particular country, make some hot content, and then come back here for the other 6, and enjoy the revenue that I make off of it. But no, this definitely, it's a very resilient industry that's going to keep going no matter what. You're not going to stop this industry because I'll tell you right now, there's 3 things that will always sell in this world. And I always tell this, and it was great advice given to me. And one thing that will always sell, women will always want to be pretty. So makeup will always sell. Everybody has troubles and they always like to drown them. So alcohol sales are always going to be there, and porn, because you know what? Everybody loves to get off. And those of you who say that you don't like to, I know you're lying, because it is one of the most amazing things on the face of the earth to have an orgasm. So, alcohol, makeup, and porn, those are your industries that are always going to keep moving into the future. No matter what you do to them, they're going to find a way to keep going. I mean, look at prohibition, they got away, and, the makeup industry is constantly having to deal with different things because of the FDA, but they make those changes and they keep it going. So just like the porn industry, you can knock us down. We're going to get right back up and we're going to keep moving.
No, I don't disagree. I don't disagree in which that you're not going to beat porn. It's physically impossible to beat porn and outlaw porn. And even if you did, and the US did, and I'm not saying I understand regulations, I understand laws, I understand the theory behind what they're trying to do and legislation is trying to do, and I get it, right? Because it's a complicated issue, and you don't want 14-year-olds watching porn. It's not good in general, but at the same time, there are so many ways how to deal with the problem. And I understand that sometimes the best way to deal with the problem is not what our governments do on any issue. But this is not a governmental podcast. I can do it. I can do it. And I know everything about the government. I used to work for them. So I know where all the bodies are buried in D.C. But I digress. That's a whole different discussion. But yeah, no. But yeah, no, I find that fascinating, right? I'm just curious because I'm always curious about everything. But yeah, that's pretty much everything I got for you. But I do want to give you a chance to promote yourself. So where can people find you, bother you, hit you up, disturb you, check out what you do, order a custom, follow you on all the social media platforms, and anything else you got to promote?
Well, yeah. Well, I'm easily found. It's literally TS Stacy Lynn. That's how you can find me on Fansly, Loyal Fans, ManyVids, and OnlyFans. You can also find me on my X profile under the same one. My Instagram, unfortunately, I got kicked off of because obviously my content was just too much for them to handle. But I did create another one, so it's TS Stacy Lynn Official, and that's my Instagram handle. And literally, you can just Google TS Stacy Lynn, and you'll see me. You'll see my sites that you'll be able to go to. I have my own website, tsstacylynn.com, which will bring you to all my links. And you can definitely find all my content. My production content is listed on there, as well as all my premium sites and my social media, as well as, ways to get a hold of me. And camming as well. I do cam on StreamMates under TS Stacy Lynn. And I took a break from camming because this older, mature woman decided to go back to school to get a different degree. So I am back in school, but I'm in a break right now. So I'll be hitting on that cam again so people can come see me live, just like you are now. But we can have a little bit more fun and lose a little bit of this material that's covering my body.
Yeah, I really don't want to get kicked off YouTube, guys. I'm already in enough trouble with them. They don't like half the content I post anyway. And I'm surprised they allowed me to stream this long on YouTube. I'm pretty sure I'm going to get strikes in the next week. I'm pretty sure of it. So, but yeah, no, definitely. Because I would love to do naked interviews. That'd be fun. And then, oh man, I just, but like, it would be something else. But.
Do you just have your platform on OnlyFans? Naked podcasts?
Yeah. Yeah, but I feel like everybody does that. Like, I feel like it's like I feel like all these people do that, and like, there's nothing that gets accomplished. Like, I feel I could be more productive by having a variety interview show and capturing all sorts of things and being on YouTube. I feel like, because there are people who do this on OnlyFans and their viewership sucks and it's horrific. And I've had better views than, like, I would say, like, there's 4 or 5 people who do like naked interviews and their viewership sucks on OnlyFans. And like, I did Cherry DeVry and it has 7,000 views. And like, I've watched like a naked interview on OnlyFans and it got like 1,000. And I'm like, that's the problem, because there's nothing there to do it. And it's so watered down. But, I mean, I would love if you were topless. I'm not going to lie. But I also want to be on YouTube, and I would like to remain on YouTube in good standing. I'm sure my audience would appreciate it too. But not the point. So yeah, but we would get like 7 views on OnlyFans if this was OnlyFans exclusive. It'd be terrible. It would be terrible.
Oh.
So that's the problem. But I digress. I've come to realize that also I'm a big proponent that something should be left to the imagination.
Absolutely.
So, but enough of that because I am going to go promote myself. Obviously, all my social media is down below. Twitter, X, Pop Anime Comics, Instagram, Pop Anime Comics, Facebook, Pop Anime Comics. I do have a TikTok, Pop Anime Comics. I post there whenever I feel like it. YouTube, I'm really big on YouTube and posting a lot. In the next 90 days, there's a lot of content that's coming out. So definitely be on the lookout for that. Got a bunch of interviews stacked up and a bunch of other stuff. So definitely subscribe on YouTube if you're not already subscribed. A lot of content's coming. Furthermore, I do run an eBay business. So look for comics and collectibles. Come shop with us on Pop Anime Comics Collectibles. And I sell everything from cards like this to comic books like this, all the way to expensive cards like this. So you name it, I sell it. And I sell everything from a $4 card and a $4 comic all the way up to $1,500 plus comics and cards. So if you're looking for all the rare stuff, all the cool stuff, all the one-on-ones, I got you covered. And I got everything for every price point that everybody can buy. The link is down below, and I ship out usually in a week. So you name it, I got it. Got you covered. So a lot of cool stuff. So you like pop culture, you want to buy stuff from me, feel free to do it. If you're not into all this stuff, that's fine. I do sell some, I guess, X-rated books and material also to a degree, but I digress. Go on my eBay store, buy some stuff, please. I need the money and I want to sell half my shit. So please go do that. It would mean a lot. But more importantly, subscribe on YouTube. That also means a lot and that's free. But that's everything that I got going on. If you type in Pop Anime Comics, you will find me. So that's everything I got going on, and I'm going to give you the final word.
Oh, well, thank you very much for having me on. I greatly appreciate it. And yeah, too, jump on my sites, and I need that money as well. These bills living here in California get a little expensive, but no, thank you for everybody who watched. I greatly appreciate it. I hope you love the show as I love doing it for you.
And on that note, everybody, that is a wrap.